welcome Ellen.
Thank you so much. It's such a wonderful sight to see so many people. You know, Christmas always brings people together closer. I wanted to give you a choice tonight whether you wanted to hear a naughty or a nice story. But since I come from a communist society, choice is an illusion. You will get a nice story. So for the first time in my life, I will try to be nice, not a naughty one. I grew up in such a beautiful place where we celebrated everything but secretly. Right? So half of my family was Roman Catholic, the other half was Muslim, yet we all kind of declared ourselves Orthodox Christians. And we were communists. So everything was prohibited. But my father and my mother were really stubborn, so they decided to have the smallest little Christmas tree at home, right? Because we only had one room anyway, there was really nothing else to fit in. We lived in this one room and we had a bathroom that was shared with another room upstairs. So really there was no space for a big tree. But we did have a tree. We rebelled. I mean, seriously, that. To have a Christmas tree during communist Yugoslavia was an achievement. There was no presents, obviously, but we did have a tree. Or as we say it, you know, do not ask what you can get from Santa. Ask yourself what you can give to Santa. So our Santa was a little bit different. Come in and take the presents from us. Well, these days this could work because we all have everything anyway. So why not? Like Santa shows up, I'm taking your TV. Not the TV. I want to dedicate this story. I now work with children. I've worked with children my whole life, and sometimes I see the despair. Because as a child, or as an adult really, you see no way out sometimes. But especially in children, they're so vulnerable really, because when they're facing problems, there's no way out for them. That's it. You know, their parents and their surrounding, that one room for me was everything. And one way to get out of that one room was for my parents to have another sibling. Because in communist society, the more points you get, the more likely you get a free apartment from the government. So we actually had a free 2-bedroom apartment given to us by our communist society. I mean, screw the Christmas presents when you can get a free apartment, right? I would have bought the Communist Party. So I always joke with my sister that the only reason we had her is because we needed 5 more points to get an apartment. Talk about trauma. When she was born, we were still staying in that one room apartment. And I remember one day after school, my father picked me up and she said, we are going to see your mother. She's at the hospital. She had a baby. You got a baby sister. Back when I was younger, there was no way to tell what was going to happen. It was like you'd wait for 9 months to see whether it was a girl or a boy or a soccer ball. Don't ask me. So he said, you got a baby sister. And I was like, you know, this is cool. And I was 6 years old at the time. We had this little car, which is kind of Fiat 500, now known as that. And there was a communist version of it, which was 750, like with a bigger engine. And the engine was in the back. It was like craziest car anyways. And the color was mustard, because it was the only color available at that time. You could not choose things back in the communist day. Like you go in, whatever is there, you get it. So my father had to put up with so many mustard jokes about his car. You can imagine what they were like. Nevertheless, he braved them, and we took our mustard Fiat to see my mother. And he said, this is your sister, are you ready to see your sister? I was like, of course. It was like this little thing that was just like, crying, like, what is this? Like I was expecting something, you know, something different. As a 6-year-old, like a sister, somebody's gonna play with. Didn't know that at some point she will actually grow and become a human. I just looked at her like, what am I gonna do with this thing? And everything was cool. So on the way back, I asked my father if I could get a small present. There was a small, like a kiosk. And by the way, the title of the story is BMW. Completely unrelated to anything. But There was a small kiosk and they were selling like newspapers and porno magazines. Everything was there, like, you know, I mean, just different sections, you know, and the lady in the inside would decide whether you can actually buy a magazine, and which magazine would be better suited for you. I had to wait a long time until I was able to get the other. That's a different story. At that time, I wanted this small BMW. It was the smallest car. And you know, the communist cars were like $3, but the BMW was $5. Even in toy section, they were more expensive. I don't get it. So my father said like, yeah, okay, because your sister was born, so he bought me this little like, BMW metal car and back to our car. And we were driving back home and it was like this, like nighttime. And I remember my father driving, you know, he worked the whole day. We went to see my sister and I'm in the back playing with my BMW and just thinking to myself, where are we gonna put that little thing that's crying all the time? We live in this one bedroom, one room. So then, what are we gonna do? How is it gonna, like, what's gonna happen? So I asked my father, are you gonna be okay? He said, don't worry, we'll be okay. You know, you'll get a new bed and we'll give you a bed to your sister and everything will be fine. That kind of shut me up. You know, I was 6 years old and gullible, naive, I didn't know better. But that child got stuck in time. I'm now 50 years old, but I still remember that worry that I carried with me my whole life. So today, as I was sitting in my classroom with my children, I almost went back in time and met that boy again. And I told him, holy shit, man, look at us. We've made it. You are now a rock and roll musician in Canada. You're telling stories. Everything is okay. You have children of your own. Everything is fine. It's fine. And I think that after 50 minus 6, also 55, 45 years later, I was able to just sigh out and realize that everything is going to be okay.
They give us such a different perspective on the world, that you know, the points in time and the parts of the world that different people come from. Thank you for that.